Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Mariako, and welcome to the very first episode of my Vanilla Minecraft series. I know, Vanilla Minecraft, not the most original of series ideas, but I still think that it's going to be a ton of fun. If only for me. Hopefully some of you as well. Now, if you are the observant type, you may be wondering why at the beginning of episode number 1 do I already have on some diamond boots. And the reason for this is quite simple. I've decided, for this series, to continue playing on my server, which I've been on for quite a while now, rather than starting a brand new world like most people do. Now, I realize that this is kind of a debatable decision, because a lot of people, myself included, admittedly, kind of prefer to see the world start from the very beginning. Let's get out of that camera angle, shall we? As I was saying, people tend to prefer to see the world start from the beginning. You like to see the early game struggles, you like to see how all the basic buildings get put up and how everything starts coming together, stuff like that. And honestly, I'm the same way. But I thought about it for quite a while, and honestly, I think that the pros of playing here on my server kind of outweigh the cons. One of those pros, for example, is that we can work on anything we want to. The fact that I have all kinds of resources, like this is one of my storage rooms, for example. The fact that I have all of that, and the fact that I have all of my shiny tools, and I know where all the biomes are for various resources and stuff like that, means that we can jump right in and work on any project that we want to. We don't need to, derp around and build a wheat field on day 1 like you normally would. So we can actually just get right into some really cool stuff, which is what we're going to do today. And the project that we're going to work on is at the bottom of this cave. This long, winding cave, which is a little bit boring looking at the moment. We'll come back and fix that. But at the very bottom of this cave, we're going to kind of build another cave, I guess is step 1. Off to one side, we're going to, right here, this side specifically, we're going to expand out. We're going to make this wall look like it's crumbling in, and we're going to make it a walkway into a very large cavern. Now, what's inside that cavern is the main focus. That's our project for today. But first things first, we're going to need to make the cavern. Now, obviously, digging out a cavern, that's not particularly exciting, and I'm not going to subject you guys to watching me dig for hours on end. Instead, I was thinking we could expedite the process just a little bit. So what we're going to do is dig that out and run away very, very quickly. Maybe get a few blocks. And hope that the server doesn't die. Ooh, my frames. Oh no! My cave! That frame rate, though. Server's still going. We're getting there. Still going. Can't believe that blew up my cave. Still going. Oh no. I see water pouring in. Well, I must say that I'm rather impressed that the server didn't crash. Let's go survey the damage, shall we? Oh my. Okay. Let's see. So well then. Here's our cave, by the way. I wasn't kidding when I said that it was going to be a relatively large cavern. But, yeah. Broke the surface of my island. Damn it. Okay, so obviously I have some cleanup to do before we really progress things. So I'll get to that, and I'll be back with you guys in just a little bit. You know how I said I'd be back in just a little bit? Well, for you that was a few seconds, but for me, it's been a while. Both because the cave took a long time to make, but also because I got a little distracted and just haven't recorded. Anyway, the cave has come along quite a ways, as you can see, and I think we're ready to go on to the next step. Now, I know the walls are still a little rough in some spots, but realistically, I don't think we're going to be paying too much attention to the walls anyway, once the actual build is in place. So what is that build going to be? Well, as you can see, I've put down a layer of mycelium on the floor of the cave, And we've done that because this cave is going to turn into a mushroom biome, basically, or my own little version of one. So the reason that we're doing this is my island is actually a mushroom island biome. I've turned it over to grass and made it kind of naturey, but it is actually a mushroom biome, and I've always wanted somewhere that was kind of a tribute to what the island once was. So this is what that is. This is my own little tribute, if you can call this cave a little tribute. And what we're actually going to be doing next is building some giant mushrooms. Now we could just plant down the red and brown mushrooms and bone meal them. That would work, that would be fine, but those are kind of boring, they're not very interesting to look at. So instead we're going to be building some of our own out of hardened clay and snow. Of course there are other materials that you can use. The new concrete from 1.12, for example, is a fantastic block for this. But we're going to stick with what we got, and there are some advantages to using these blocks as well, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. First things first, let's go ahead and get to building our very first mushroom. And we're going to do that in this back corner. That way, if it turns out a little bit ugly, it's not front and center, you know? So let's go ahead and start it right about here, I think would be good. We need to be careful not to be too close to the walls because some of these mushrooms, this one in particular, is going to be relatively large. So from here, we're going to go up 9 blocks. And this is going to be the height of our stem for this mushroom. The other mushrooms will come in different shapes and sizes, but this is the size we're going for this one, and they're all kind of similar to the size, just to give you an idea of how big we're really going with these. From here, we're going to go over 5 blocks. 4, 5, and then we're going to start building a circle. And this circle is actually going to become a dome or a hemisphere, and that's going to be the base for this mushroom. There are going to be different shapes, like I said earlier, but for this one, it's going to be mostly a perfect sphere. We're going to go through and rough it up a little bit. Obviously, we don't want it to look completely man-made. We want it to have some kind of natural feeling to it. But a hemisphere is a good base for this one, and it's a good simple shape to work with, so hopefully it gets us in the groove of things a little bit. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys with the entire process, because it is kind of a time-consuming one, especially in survival mode. But the plan right now is basically to build this circle, and then build it up into a dome, and then I'll go back through the dome, rough it up a little bit, give it a bit of definition, a bit of character, make sure there's no kind of rigid lines or patterns going through it. And then from there, we'll go back in, add in a second color, which will be this white hardened clay in the case of this particular mushroom. And from there on, we'll be working on the rest of it. That'll be a kind of the cap of the mushroom. Then we'll work on the stem, and then we have the inside of the mushroom, or the gills as they're known. So that's what I'll be doing for the next few minutes, and I'll bring you guys back in when it's done. Alright, so here's where we're at so far. Boom. Now it's still a little bit messy in some spots, and I will end up coming back myself to kind of clean things up and make them look a little bit better, but for right now, this is what the cap of the mushroom is looking like. We're going to have to find out a way to light things up a bit and get rid of those torches. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. Though lighting in here in general is actually going to be quite a challenge because we don't want any torches showing at all. We actually want to go full on hidden lighting like I do in the rest of my island, but it's going to be a little tricky down here. I have a few ideas, we'll make it work. Anyway, now that we have the cap of our mushroom in place, we can move on to the stem. And first things first, we're not going to want this kind of straight pillar going up to the mushroom. That would be okay with a little bit of shape, but for this one, I think we're actually going to slant it in just a little bit. Something like this, and maybe a little bit at the top as well. Go up, maybe bring the top 2 over, I think will be good. And let's take a look at that. Yeah, it'll just end up being like a slight slope in the stem. And I think that that'll give it a little bit more character and a little bit more shape. So as I said before, these stems are going to be made out of snow for multiple reasons. Both availability as well as a little trick we're going to do later on. But for right now, just go with it. So, first things first, let's cover the dirt up and get a basic shape going on. Okay, so here is the basic shape that we're going to start with. Actually, let's break this and put a torch here. We're going to want some lighting up in the cap of the mushroom coming down. That'll help our lighting situation a little bit down here. And let's go down and see what we're working with so far. Obviously, this isn't going to cut it. This is going to be just the first pass of the stem, because we need to get rid of this thing that's happening right here, where we have these columns going up. We don't want that. We don't want these kind of hard lines in anything that we do that's organic, really. So we're going to get rid of that. Maybe bring this down. Let's see. So we've already kind of gotten rid of those lines a bit, though it is looking a bit bulky in the back. Let's see. I think that this is feeling a little too thick right there. Maybe if we remove that block, it'll help it. Oh, suffocating in snow. Okay, let's see. Now we have a different problem where this feels like it's kind of separate. Anyway, we're not going to focus too much on the stem right now, because much like the cap, I will probably come back in myself later on to make things feel a bit better. We still have this side to do too. Let's take care of that. Maybe take this down and this up. I said that backwards. Don't worry about it. I could do this all day. I could literally end up doing this all day. Let's be honest. So let's not worry about it for right now. Let's just say that this is good. And honestly, the final stem will be pretty similar to this, I think. So for right now, let's just call this good. Now we're going to move up into the top section and work on the gills, which is the kind of under part of the cap of the mushroom. And for all these mushrooms, we're actually going to use white hardened clay, which for this one is a little weird because we've already used it, but it should be okay. Let's see, I don't want one there. So what we're going to do for these gills is actually just have a base ring of them around the edge of the mushroom, and then have them kind of collapse in towards the center point. Now we need to be careful though, because we don't want to end up just making a cone shape, which would be very easy to accidentally do here. And we don't want that. That would look pretty unnatural. So we need to kind of work our way in and then make a rougher shape out of it. I'm sure the first pass is going to be a bit rough looking. So anyway, this is probably going to take a minute. And again, I don't want to make you guys wait through too much. So I'm going to take care of this myself. And maybe I will also, while I'm at it, clean up the stem and whatnot. And I'll get back to you guys once that's done. So here's what our mushroom is looking like now. And at this point, I would think that it's about 90, maybe even 95% of the way to where I want it to be. There's maybe one or two little blocks here and there that need to be shifted around, stuff like that, but this is a pretty good look at what it's actually going to look like in the end. Now, if we come look up at the gills, which is what we left off with last time, they're not quite what I wanted, but overall I think they're okay. The issue is that at this scale, if we went any less detailed, it would just be a smooth ridge going in, and if we went any more detailed, it would be kind of a chaotic mess. And I didn't really want either of those things, so I think that this is kind of a happy medium between the two. So in addition to that, I also took the torches off the top of the mushroom and stuck some hidden lighting into it. Because, like I said earlier, we are going to need to light this place up, but we don't want any torches in here. We want everything to be kind of ambiently lit. And that is kind of tricky when it comes to these mushrooms, because lighting up the cap is difficult. The way that I got around it, at least as much as I have, is to use carpets and leaves. I hid some torches in the top of the mushroom, above the stem, above the gill part of it, where you can't see it from below. And then just, poked a little hole, put a carpet over a leaf, and I think it's a decent solution. Realistically, even if you see this from above, it's not going to look too out of place, so I think it works out. Now, that alone wasn't quite enough, unfortunately. The sides of the mushroom were still very, very dark, and even now they kind of are. But I lit them up a little bit by coming around the edge of the bottom, and I need some dirt blocks, and you'd pillar up here. Doop. And we hid some torches in here like this. And basically what this allowed was for some lighting to come down and wrap around the blocks and light up the bottom edge. So now, rather than having just a very light top and a black everything else, it kind of lights up from the bottom as well. And we do still get a bit of darkness in the middle, but overall, I think it looks pretty good, and I think we can live with that. So there is one other little bit of lighting that we need to do with these, and that is around the stem. We're going to use a lot of hidden lighting tricks when it comes to lighting up the floor of this place, but around the mushrooms themselves, there is a really, really cool trick that we can do to sneak in just a little bit of extra lighting. And that, like if you can see, it's pitch black around the base of the mushroom right now, but we can actually hide some lighting right here. If we go down, say, game, please don't. Ouch. Okay. If we go down, right up, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. That might be good enough. Let's see what our light level is when we come back out here. Our light level is 10. This should be good. So now if we take our leaf block and put it down, and then take a snow layer, we can cover this up, and the light will still shine through. And that happens even if we go all the way up to 8 layers. So even if we have a full snow block, because it's made out of these snow layers instead, it allows light to pass through. So we can replace a handful of these with these snow layers and light up the area. Now we do need to be a little bit careful about where we place it. The reason that I went down the number of blocks that I did is that if we place it too close, for example, if we place it right next to a torch, this will eventually melt. So we can't do that. We need to have it be at least a few blocks away. As I recall, it needs to be a light level of 11 or lower. And I can't really remember if that's inclusive or not. I don't know if 11 will melt it. I'm pretty sure 12 does, but 11 might not. So we'll see. Hopefully we're good. Ooh, I'm going into one of the caves. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be good, I think. Let's go back out. And build up another snow block. And there we go. So we're lighting this up. We'll put one more over here for good measure. Oops. And there we go. So with that, and I really think this needs a couple more blocks down here at the stem, now that I'm looking at it. But so that's part of that 5%, I guess, is working out the base of the stem. So this is pretty much what our mushroom's looking like, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think the top might be a little too bright. We might need to kind of hide the lighting a little bit more. But for the most part, I think that this is good, and this is a pretty good look at what our mushrooms are going to be looking like. So with that, I think we're ready to move on to our second mushroom. This one, we're going to go on a little bit quicker than this one. We're going to kind of go it all in one go, and we're going to put it right about here. So I'm going to go and get all the resources for that, and I'll be back with you guys in just a minute. Quick change of plans. I didn't realize quite how far into today's video we already were, so we're probably going to go ahead and skip the second mushroom for today. We will likely build that right at the beginning of episode number 2, along with a lot of other mushrooms probably at the same time. But there is one thing that I wanted to get done yet today, and that is a little bit of a landscaping project. So if we take a look at our cave floor, it's okay, but it's kind of boring at the moment. There's not a lot of detail, it's very flat, especially up here, and there's just not a lot going on. And I do intend to change that as we build mushrooms and stuff. I wanted to kind of build up the terrain around that and work everything in together. But there's one key thing in the landscape that I think we need to do right away, because it's going to dictate where everything else can be placed. And that is a little bit of a stream running all the way up the middle. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky because a lot of this area in the middle is actually only 1 or 2 blocks deep and is covering a bit of a ravine. So we're going to have a lot of manual building to do, but I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to go ahead and start planning this out, lay out a path for this, and get to digging and I guess get to building. And hopefully we end up with a decent stream. We don't necessarily need it to be perfect. We don't need it to look ideal or in its final form today, but we do need the layout in place so that we know where everything else can go. So I'm going to get right to that, and I'll be back with you guys in just a little bit. So here's our little stream through our mushroom cavern, at least so far. It needs to be detailed yet. For the most part, it's just kind of a bland river, but it's there, the shape is there, and that was kind of the important thing that we needed to get done. So if we go down and take a look at it, like I said, pretty bland for the most part. I did try during the elevation changes to make it look a little bit more interesting, but it feels a little out of place without the rest of the river being detailed, so we'll have to see how it looks in the end. This end of the river is currently capped off in kind of a weird, nonsensical way, and that will be changing, but not probably in the near future. I have another project in mind that's going to tie into this river, and we'll be taking care of that at some point, but not quite right now. Now on the far other end of the river, we have a little bit of a waterfall situation. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because YouTube does tend to darken things a bit, but up here is a hole in the cave wall, and this actually leads out to the ocean. So this is real ocean water, which I think is pretty sweet. And then it comes down, cascades off of this rock, and finds its way down to our little stream, which I think is quite nice. So with that, I think we can call it a day. I didn't get done quite as much as I had hoped to today, but I don't want to keep you guys any longer than I already have. So if you made it this far into the video, well, congratulations and thank you for sticking around for my very first little Let's Play experience. And on that note, I would like to ask you guys for some critique, if you would. Basically, I've never done this whole Let's Play style content before, and I'm aware that throughout this video there were a couple spots where I was a little quiet and mumbly, or speaking a little incoherently. It's kind of tricky to do non-scripted content, I find, and I'm hoping that I get better at it, but if there's anything other than my blabbering speech that could be improved, be sure to let me know, because I would like to make the best content that I possibly can. An example of that would actually be the time lapses. I know that I included several of them today, and I would like to know if you guys think that that was a good thing to do. Do you think that I should have more of those? Do you think I did too many? Should I have skipped them entirely and just got straight to the result? Be sure to let me know, because like I said, I'm new to this, I don't know the best way to do all this stuff, and I would like to hear what you guys think. And while you're at it, there's one other thing that I'd like you guys to do if you have any ideas for it. Basically, if you have any ideas for this cave, be sure to let me know, because it's a huge project and I have all kinds of other ideas of my own, but it's always good to hear other people's opinions, and you guys could think of some really cool stuff that I never thought of. For example, what to do with the ceiling. I have a few ideas for it, like we could, if we were lazy, just make some stalactites and stuff and make it look like a cave ceiling. That would look good, it would be fine, but if you guys have any other ideas, for example, I've been messing with the idea of making a big kind of crack in the ceiling, sort of like a chasm or a ravine, and it would open up to the surface of my island, and that would mean two things. One, it would make the ceiling look interesting, because we could have the naturey theme of my island kind of seeping into the crack in the ceiling, and two, it would light up the entire cave, like massively, because sunlight is the most powerful light source in the game. So if we did that, everything would be lit up pretty dang well, and we wouldn't even need to worry about hidden lighting that much anymore. But it would also get rid of that kind of grungy cave feeling, that kind of contained secret biome feeling that we've got going on, or will have going on when we have more mushrooms down here. So that's kind of a pros and a cons situation, and I don't know which one's best. I'm kind of debating that internally. So if you have an opinion on that, be sure to let me know as well. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today and putting up with me all the way to the end of the video. That's quite awesome of you. If you have any suggestions, like I said, either on the video itself or on the cave project, then be sure to let me know. I will be glad to hear it. And that's all I've got. So hopefully I'll see you guys in episode number 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.